The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Baby really hurt me, crying in
Kia ora and welcome to Lord Behind the Melodrama, a track-by-track podcast brought to you by the Spin-off and Spark about Lord's new album, Melodrama. I'm your host, Henry Oliver, the music editor at the Spin-off, and over 2 afternoons in May, I sat in a boardroom in Auckland and talked to Lord about the lyrics, songwriting and production of her new album, hearing the stories and influences behind every song. In this episode, we discussed Liability. What a heartbreaking song.
Oh, yeah, thanks. It feels silly to even talk about because I'm like...
Why?
I don't know. I guess it's just... I'm so aware of the thoughts that are so potent in a moment, and at the end of the light of day, you're like, all right, I was being a bit of a drama there, but it's all good. I'm over it. But I went and immortalised it, and now everyone who talks to me about that song gives me this look like I'm dying of a terminal disease. They're just like, buddy. And I'm like, it's all good. It's all good. But I think that is the nature of writing a record called Melodrama. They are all these feelings that are so potent in a moment. And I kind of like that they're often fleeting. And you then immortalise them forever.
It starts with a specificity, you know, and then during the song it broadens out to they, and then broadens out further to sort of people, you know.
And then it goes to your.
People,
you're
all
of you.
And it's one thing, I think, to feel that way about a person, that you're a liability, but then much sadder to feel that way about either a group of people or further still, like everybody.
Yeah, it is, It's a bit... That's why it's so, I don't feel like that all the time, but I think that everyone has a moment feeling like they are too much for everyone possible. It's so potent, and I will never forget that feeling. It's so crushing and so isolating, and I don't know, it's a funny one now because I wrote it when I was sad and I'm happy now. It's funny to look back on, but I'm glad I wrote it. It's sort of been a bit of a weird suit of armor. It's been very therapeutic to have written that song, and because it almost felt like I've said everything about myself that could possibly hurt me coming from other people, and now it's like, what could they could repeat those sentiments, they could leave, but I've already said they're all going to leave, so you know what I mean. It was like I'd sort of written the script for the worst possible outcome, and so it didn't feel that bad anymore. And also because I was so proud of the song, it was like this moment of being like, well, I can turn this really shitty feeling into something that shines, It felt really special. And to be able to sit on the edge of a stage and sing it and have people sing it back sounds so silly, but it really is very it's like a force field, It's a cool feeling.
Which leads me to the bit that I found the saddest,
yeah.
And what really got me as a listener,
Yeah.
And it's that the truth is I'm a toy that people enjoy
till all of the tricks don't work anymore. and then you're bored of me.
Jeez. What a hard out guy,
There's like a way to be self-depreciating that's still...
Right, it's still quite chic, yes.
You know, and it's still quite chic, right?
Which is definitely what I did in the first couple drafts of the song. It was very, very cool.
And one of those ways is like people go, you know, you hear this a lot from famous people that want to be relatable. And they say, oh, I'm really boring, you know. And
yeah, I'm guilty of that.
Right.
I hate it. But I am. No.
It's another step. It's kind of like a step, I think, beyond that to go, no, people are literally bored of me.
Yeah.
That's so intense. And such an intense thing
Yeah.
to share with millions of people.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to do in song to me, that line, you can feel a bunch of people around me, and as the line falls, they leave. And it's almost like, as a listener, you leave, you're in the group that leaves, and you can feel the presence of me alone in a room that you were in, that you're now not in because you're bored of that person. And that was super deliberate. Often you stay in the room with the narrator, you know, while people leave. But I liked the camaraderie of like being in the group that thinks I'm a loser, because it makes it so sad, you know. And there's a very specific, there's a note missing on the piano in that part, and it makes it even more like, it sort of, you know, it takes a breath, because, you know, it does fall, and it's like skipping a step or something, it's falling down the stairs a little bit. Yeah, it's such a it's a strange bit of songwriting, and one that I just like combed for so long, because there can't be any dead air in a song like that. The second you drop the ball for a line, you've broken the spell, you know. So I went on this much publicized trip to exotic island Waiheke to write for a couple of days.
Noted.
And went there, and I just sat around and watched Twin Peaks, and I basically got like all of 6 lines out of that trip, but they were like some of the most important pillars of the record. For me, like, there are certain sentiments which hold a song and which speak to much more than just, you know, the throwaway part of the song they might be in. And the ways in which I get to them are often, you know, with this particular one, I wrote probably 1,000 words before I'd whittled down to every perfect summer's eating me alive, you know, until you're gone. And the sentiment originally was, you know, every perfect summer ends up eating me alive in the end. And that's sort of, it's almost like that's the line that my entire career has been in conversation with. You know, it's about crystallizing the idea of the perfect summer and showing just how it eats you alive, for better or for worse, you know. I have a literal fixation with summer in my work and on this record, you know, because it is this magic time, and it also, you know, is a metaphor for youth, and I really am so proud of that moment in that song. And it's like, it's not even, it's like, it's a traveling line, you know, you're on the way somewhere else, but
Yeah.
it's like in the middle of the phrase. But that to me is like, you know, those are the moments where I'm like, oh, I wasn't doing that with Pure Heroine, you know, there was no every perfect summer's eating me alive. So, yeah, it's a funny song, but I'm pumped on it, I guess.
How do you get to a song like that? You know, you have these lines, and that's the best expression of them in your head, or are you like, I want to do a kind of piano song, and then go into the studio and go like, hey, let's do a piano song, you know, I've got these parts, or like things like that don't just spring out of thin air, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, no, especially not for me, because I typically do not gravitate towards a piano vocal. I've never written a ballad in my life, you know. It was bizarre territory for me to be in. I mean, that one, it's funny, the writing of it is actually like, it's hip hop to the phrasing and the cadence, you know. it started off as this weird like chanted thing, and even the and then everyone, it felt like something out of a hip hop song or a pop song, and I like that. You've got these like falling chords that are so classic, like you can literally sing a Don Henley song over them.
I've been trying to get down to the heart of the matter.
Or, a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song over them. Like they're so classic. But so it was sort of like this bizarre place I'd never been before. That one we started a lot of songs on the record at the piano. It was more that one just never left the piano. We started writing it, and we tried all these different contexts for it. And then kind of early on, we were like, there's no other world for this except like basically a live take. Because I just sat in Jack's house, and that's mostly a live take on both of our parts. It was just kind of the only way it would feel cool, which is weird because when has piano and vocal ever felt cool? Some songs definitely were much more... I want it to be like this. I have this idea for it. I've got all these parts, and and they manifested as such. But that one, I definitely had growing pains with it. And at first, I rejected it a little bit. It was my baby that I didn't love. I was like, this is weird. And initially, I kind of wanted it to actually be a skit on the record, like a rap skit. My idea for it was to get like a fancy sound designer to basically put us in a party, and for me to walk away from the party down the hall and shut the door into a room and basically deliver a verse and chorus of Liability, and then have someone be like, come on, get out, what are you doing? Have someone call out, and for me to be like, I'm coming, and to walk out of that room, and the listener stays in that room for a second, and then it's the next song. And I love the idea of just this like weird little moment of theatre, but we sort of did that without the skit anyway. Yeah, there was definitely a process of me being like, how can I be okay with having written this like weird classic piano song? I need to frame it in all these different ways, until eventually I was just like, oh no, it's just got to be the way it is. It's probably fine.
You're a liability. You're a little much for me.
You're going to watch me disappear into the sun. And then you're all going to watch me disappear into the sun. Who is that? Who are they? Who's watching you disappear? And
I guess it was the same people that pull back and make other plans are kind of the people that I'm talking to. But also it was everyone as well. I felt like, it is a very like me against the world type song, and it sort of felt quite funny to me to just throw my arm out and include everyone right at the end. Because I think having an audience is like quite a complex experience. It's like the most amazing thing in the world, and it's also like, I guess it's probably like having children. Like there are complicated like facets to like being a parent, and weirdly I feel like having an audience sometimes you just need a second, or you just like want it to be, there are just moments where you fleetingly kind of wish for something else. So I feel like that was, and in the context of that song, I think it kind of makes sense. And it's very, again, very melodrama to say, you're all going to watch me disappear into the sun.
You're gonna watch me disappear into the sun. You're all gonna watch me disappear into the sun.
This podcast is produced for The Spinoff by Yana Winter and Henry Oliver, recorded and edited by Yana, with additional recording by Jose Barbosa. Like all of The Spinoff's music content, Lord, Behind the Melodrama, is brought to you by Spark. Listen to all the music you love, including Melodrama, on Spotify Premium, free with all of Spark's pay monthly mobile plans. Find more Spinoff podcasts on iTunes or wherever else you get these things. For more from The Spinoff, go to thespinoff.co.nz.
Talofa lover, I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spinoff. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spinoff member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, senior writer at The Spinoff. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The Spinoff Podcast Network.